Okay, half a day and good morning. The Committee on Housing, Utilities, Public Safety, and Homeland Security is calling this confirmation hearing and public hearing to order. It is now 9:03 a.m. on Thursday, February 15, 2018. Notice of this confirmation hearing and public hearing was provided to senators, stakeholders, and the local media. A 5-day notice was provided on Wednesday, February 7, 2018. And a 48-hour notice was provided on Monday, February 12, 2018. Thus, meeting the requirements of the open government law, this confirmation hearing, public hearing, and roundtable meeting is also being broadcast on television, so please. The committee will continue to receive testimony until 5 p.m. on Friday, February 23, 2018. So we'll just go real quick with the agenda today. We'll first address the executive appointment of Mr. Richard Gutierrez, and then we'll go over to hear the bills numbers 144-34, which is an act to add a new Chapter 48 to Division 1 of Title 21, Guam Code Annotated, relative to establishing the Guam Landlord-Tenant Rental Act of 2017. Bill number 146-34, as introduced by myself, an act to amend subsection 4703 D1 and 2, both of Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 12, Guam Code Annotated, relative to increasing the first-time homeowner assistance program eligible transaction contract maximum amount from $250,000 to $300,000. I just want to ask your forgiveness and understanding. I was on a very traumatic flight back home, so. But I didn't want to postpone anything. The flight from San Francisco to Honolulu, an engine blew, so I'm still kind of shaken up. But I didn't want to postpone this. So we're hearing this today. The work must go on. So I'm but thank you for bearing with me. Bill number 147-34, an act to amend subsection 4103F and to add subsection 4103G. Both of Article 1, Chapter 4, Title 12, Guam Code Annotated, relative to exempting Guam residents relocating to Guam for employment or to care for relatives due to medical reasons from the Guam Housing Corporation's first-time homeowners requirement, and allowing Guam residents to obtain financing with the Housing Corporation to build or construct affordable typhoon-resistant homes on land trust property. I'd like to thank the Vice Speaker for being here today. First, we'll call Mr. Gutierrez, if you could please come up to the panel and join us, and of course, anyone else that would like to testify on behalf of Mr. Gutierrez's appointment. Wonderful. And can I get the roster real quick? And perhaps we'll go down the line. Mr. President Chris of GAR, please, and then we'll work our way this way. You can state your name and perhaps your position, and then we'll work our way and we'll have Mr. Gutierrez give testimony last. Thank you. Sure. Just go ahead and turn on your mic. There you go.
Gotta push the button. I'm Christopher Felix. I'm the president of Century 21 Realty Management. I'm also the president of the Guam Association of Realtors. I've known Richard for many, many years. He's done not high enough appraisals for me during that time. But Richard is a good friend. He's so well knowledgeable in the field, and I can't think of anyone better for the position in the commission. So I just highly recommend him. I could go on and on about Richard and my friendship and his abilities, but I don't think I need to say more. Everyone knows him, and he is one of the best. Thank you.
My name is Scott Campbell, and I've known Richard for a number of years. I'm the principal broker of Coral Sea Realty, also the vice president of the Guam Association of Realtors. I've been on several boards and committees with Richard, and I found him to be very highly valuable and knowledgeable and honest, trustworthy, everything. Anyway, I highly recommend him for this position. Thank you.
Hapaday, good morning, Senators. Appreciate the opportunity to come to you today in support of the nomination of Richard Gutierrez. I too have known Richard for more than 15 years on a personal and professional basis, and find him to be extremely knowledgeable and forthright in everything he does, and in his support of the community. He's very active. I'm also owner and principal broker of Real Estate Professionals, and I currently serve as...
Could you please state your name for the record while you're...
Oh, I'm sorry. Chris Murphy. I'm owner and principal broker of the Real Estate Professionals. I currently serve as the chairman for the Real Estate Commission. As you may know, we have 2 vacancies pending right now. One of them is an at-large position, which Richard's being nominated for. We see the Real Estate Commission moving forward with Guam's current striving for improvement and economic development as a key commission to be part of, as it will help to raise the professional bar for real estate, the profession of real estate on Guam, as well as review and add input into the current real estate laws on Guam. As many of you know, a lot of those laws are outdated, antiquated, incomplete, or not needed. So through this commission, we look to work with general stakeholders, the legislature, and whoever else is interested to update those laws so that everyone can benefit from the future. So with Richard's background in title and appraisal, I also highly recommend him for the position. Thank you.
Good morning, Senators. Thank you for having me here today. I'm Richard Gutierrez. I'm the Principal Appraiser for Chief Appraisals. I'm also the Vice President for PAPRIA, the Professional Association of Professional Real Estate Appraisers as well. I'm also on the Director for Government Affairs as well. And is there anything else you would like to know, Senators, about me?
Can you just speak into the mic?
Oh, can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. It's my first time being up here, so a little nervous. Would you like me to start from the beginning?
No, that's fine.
No.
Is there anything you'd like to share with us, perhaps a vision that you have in mind for the Guam Real Estate Commission, some of the areas that you'd like to address, some plan in reference to this appointment?
Well, I've been dealing with a lot of people involved in the real estate industry, from developers to brokers, real estate agents. I've probably dealt with about over 13,000 homeowners over the last 23 years of my experience. I've also dealt with many directors from different agencies. There are problems with the current laws today that haven't been updated or need to be updated. So I can bring numerous aspects from both the private sector and also the public sector, and also the government sectors, on different issues in different areas that need to be updated over the years. I can't get into specifics now because I don't know what has been updated over the years, but once I get in, I'll start the ball rolling, and I'll update myself because I know Chris has been doing a lot of different amendments to the laws over the years. So, but I'll have a lot of good input to put in. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. I'll now open it up to the Vice Speaker if she has any questions.
Wanted to ask the chairman of the commission is so there are supposed to be 4 brokers.
Correct.
And you've got 4.
Correct.
Okay, and so then one would be Richard, and who's the other ones from Revenue Tax?
Yeah, actually, by law, we need 7 members, 4 which have to be licensed brokers, which we have in place right now.
One in is an
One has to
attorney.
be an employee of Revenue and Tax, which we have in place right now.
Okay.
One has to be a licensed practice attorney,
Right.
which we don't have yet.
Okay, that's
and
the
one
one
is at large, so Richard would be the at-large person.
All right, great. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gutierrez, for your time here. Is there anyone else that would like to give testimony on behalf of the confirmation hearing of Mr. Gutierrez? All right, very well. So this confirmation hearing will now come to a close, and we'll move on to hearing the bills for the public hearing. Thank you very much for your time. Gentlemen. Okay. We'll now hear bill number 144-34. If there's anyone that would like to give testimony or address any concerns, please come forward. Just to give you a little bit of a backstory or history on this bill, we submitted this bill towards the mid of last year, and we held a roundtable hearing concerning all these bills that we're hearing today. And we have a committee report addressing this roundtable hearing. And so we have to hear this bill first, and then we'll make the substitutions from what we have from the public hearing and also the roundtable hearing. And of course, if need be, if some of the changes we make is not germane to this bill, we'll hold another public hearing. But it'll determine on how many amendments that we make in the current bill to justify that. And of course, the committee that I chair, the members in the committee will also decide on that matter. Okay, we'll go first with you, Chris, and then we'll work our way down.
Thank you, Senator and Vice Speaker. Once again, I'm Chris Felix. I'm speaking on behalf of the Guam Association of Realtors, of which I'm this year's president. I don't want to rehash this. We've met privately. We've discussed it at the round table. I have resubmitted the letter we gave last year with our comments, our suggestions. We would like a Landlord-Tenant Act that is fair and reasonable to both parties. And it's our hope that you'll look at our recommended changes and hopefully hear them. And then we can speak later after you amend and adjust the bill accordingly. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Felix.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name once again is Chris Murphy. I'm representing the Guam Real Estate Commission. I too was in that initial meeting, and the information that was provided in the letter from Mr. Felix included input from our side. So I also am in support of a well-defined and fair landlord-tenant code, and I too would like to see the bill after the fact so that we can make the appropriate comments or adjustments at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, Mr. Murphy, there were some concerns on behalf of the Guam Real Estate Commission that you did address. And at that roundtable hearing, we did agree that we would hold the bill before we heard in public hearing to get additional feedback from you. So they weren't specifically addressed, but you said that you did have some concerns about certain areas and that you would submit your concerns via writing. So if there's anything else that you'd like to add, please just submit that piece.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Maria Miller, immediate past president of GAR. And so basically I'm here, this was my letter from last year. So I'm with these gentlemen. We don't want to really rehash everything. You know, we're here to work with you and the commission, whatever, you know, is best for our business. You know, I manage hundreds of properties, so I know that this is really needed.
Thank you very much. Vice Speaker, do you have any questions?
Just very quickly, I haven't reviewed your letter, I think, Mr. Felix. Is it consistent with what the earlier GAR letter had said?
I'm sorry, Senator. Yes, that is the letter.
Okay.
We're just staying with the same letter that was written by Maria, and I just resubmitted it.
Okay.
So it's identical.
Okay,
it's
thank you.
the same letter.
All right,
Thank you.
I've read that one. Thank you very much.
Yes, and you know, I'd like to thank all of you for your support in acknowledging that we do need to address a landlord-tenant law, and we need to make some changes, of course, that is equally fair, not just for the business community, but also for the people of Guam. And so most definitely we want to ensure that, this is also for the best interest of the community as a whole. And so thank you for your support, your constant input, and your wisdom and experience in this realm. It's greatly appreciated because we want to ensure that everything is equal and fair and impartial. So thank you for that. Okay. We will now hear Bill 146-34, which is an act to amend subsection 4703D1 and 2, both of Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 12, Guam Code Annotated, relative to increasing the first-time homeowners assistance program eligible transaction contract maximum amount from $250,000 to $300,000. Okay. Thank you, Mr. President, for being here. And just again, a little bit of backstory. We did have a roundtable hearing in reference of this bill. Some of the concerns we addressed was the housing market changing, the increase in labor, and so we took a look at the numbers, and we felt that the cost to support those that are first-time homeowners should be raised to the amount of $300,000, of course, with the understanding that they'd still get the increase of the support monetary amount would still be at $10,000. And so this is just so we can make it a little, the eligibility for the working class families a little higher, because we know that the housing market is changing. We know that the cost is rising. And so this is just to address the economic changes that are happening within our community today. Mr. President, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and good morning, Vice Speaker Tulai. My staff is currently on unexcused leave. Actually, they're on their way. So we have some written testimony that we'll submit on both bills. But just to start with this bill, 146-34, Guam Housing is in full support. This bill actually, as we mentioned in the roundtable, was a culmination of working with the real estate community, working with many brokers, given the fact that not only now, but even a couple of years ago, the mean average of affordable home continues to increase. Currently, with the labor shortage, it's only made that difficulty, or I guess if you're a seller, it's good for you. But the prices, of course, continue to escalate. And so what was an affordable home, maybe in the $140,000, $160,000 range years and years ago, is now really affordable homes are really in the 200+ range. And so what had happened was those who would otherwise be eligible for our grant program, which is really now we're approaching 600 recipients, which has created a lot of economic activity and put families in homes that probably might not have realized that dream. Basically, it's starting to shrink the pool, given the fact that houses now, even at the affordable level, are really graduating in the range above $250,000 for some financings and purchases. So with that, this particular bill will allow for those who are purchasing homes that are going to just miss that cutoff of $250,000, give that additional $50,000 range in order to ensure that we continue to help those who most need it, especially given the current housing market. We will keep the cap, or we'd like to, as you've proposed in your legislation, Madam Chair. We'll keep the cap at $10,000. We believe that that's the right thing to do, because there's a limited funding source for this, and that continues to ensure that all individuals who are trying to avail themselves of this program, that we spread out that opportunity. In my time at Guam Housing now, just a little bit over a year, most of the applications I've seen come through have been approved from the range of about 6,000, 6,500. I think the other day I signed off on one, probably the highest one that I've seen. It was almost at the 250,000, the purchase of the home. So via the calculation, I believe that grant award was about 9,800. So that's just about the max. So with using that average, of 6,500 to close to 10,000, we're able to help more people and more families. So we like the way the bill is written, and we'd like for it to stay at 10,000 in terms of the grant, but simply increase the eligible purchase price. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. I guess I'm just confused about this, the need part.
Okay.
Right? So, because so I'm reading an article from January 2017, 1 year ago, where Siska Hotapea says that the median price of a standalone house for that year was $245,000, which had gone up, of course. But it's still below the $250,000 that
Right.
we're talking about. So
Right.
I don't know. Do we need to go up to 300,000 if I mean, maybe we can serve more people with 300,000, but we could serve more of the more needy people, perhaps, by keeping it lower? I mean, I don't know. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I guess I have two basic answers to that. One is maybe there's still some real estate professionals in the room, but I think there's no question, particularly in this last year, with the labor issues and construction. I know a number of contractors that I've done work with before, contractors who have come to us at Guam Housing who are qualified under our programs to build affordable homes. And, the inventory right now, and probably for the foreseeable couple of years, is going to be such that even those that are trying to get into most homes in the range of 200,000 right now are fixer-uppers, really, and that's basic. That's mostly true, and so the bottom line is that this grant opportunity really softens the blow of folks who are purchasing homes that are going to need to make investments for improvements, for purchasing of additional things that are going to be required. A lot of homes, won't come with a washing machine, dryer, refrigerator, stove. So that's what we've seen. That's the anecdotal data. Other than, if you look at that mean that's discussed there, it's right at the number. So that's the mean. So meaning that really in the housing market right now, it really is considerably above that for even just an average home. And so that market, I think maybe my latter answer is more what you're looking for. If you look at our pipeline right now, and we're getting our distributions. We mentioned this in the most recent committee of the whole meeting that we had. If you look at our pipeline right now and our distribution from Department of Administration, we're really meeting the requirements. So no one's really being left behind at this point that we've seen, whereby if this increase happened, the potentiality is that we're going to leave people who are possibly most needy out. And so that's just not what we're seeing right now. I can see what you're saying, the potentiality for it. As you know, we're also chugging forward to try to find a dedicated funding source. I guess that's the keywords these days. But we're looking at a funding source that's going to really bolster this program and others at Guam Housing. So I think what you're asking primarily is a supply and demand issue. Right now it's equal. And so I don't think this increase would leave folks behind. I think if we found that, maybe we'd have to revisit it. But right now, we think that we might be leaving people behind that are going to be just over that 250 to 275 because of the market. And it might mean the difference as to whether they can close or not close on a home. Keep in mind, Guam Housing, I don't have the hard data, but just at least of what I've seen, we're probably about 15% of this market. So the majority of these homes are closing in the private, with the private financial institutions. This is not a Guam Housing centric offering. That's why the realtors really have if there's any program that we administer that they really admire us for, other than trying to increase revenues, this is one thing that they really have a great admiration for Guam Housing for. So I know you're very familiar with the formation of this program, so I know it's a long answer, but right now we don't see that we're leaving anybody behind, so we think it's the right thing to do.
So going over the median price of a house would allow you to qualify more people, and but yeah, but you're saying it wouldn't, that you have enough available, I guess, that it wouldn't leave those who were most needy behind. That's your assessment of this?
That's my assessment, and that's been the that's been the professionals' assessment too. No secrets here. This actually came from a number of meetings that our staff has attended over the years now, I would say, since this program's been very successful over the last 5 years. Of course, its initial implementation was in 1998, and there was a pause. And so really, in meetings that I've been in for the last year that I've been at Guam Housing, and my staff has briefed me when I came in, even in prior presentations that they've done at opportunities to meet with GAR and other real estate professionals. Sometimes just real estate companies will ask Guam Housing to come in and when they have turnover in their staff to give a briefing on Guam Housing's program. So this has been a constant request from the real estate professionals, and so it really is an answer to a request from the industry experts.
Okay, thank you. If there's anything that your agency has developed in writing that would back that up, if you could send that to us, I'd be appreciative.
We'd love to.
But otherwise, I appreciate your testimony.
Sure, thank you, Vice Speaker.
Can we get the updated roster for those that arrived? Is there anyone else that would like to testify on bill number
This is the written. Yeah,
146?
This is on the increase, so maybe perhaps Mary would want to speak to it as well.
Good morning. My name is Mary Guerrero. I'm the loan administrator at Guam Housing Corporation. Relative to that bill, in terms of increasing the total cost and the purchase price up to $300,000, we recently went into HUD's website, and we follow HUD's loan limits for our loan limits. It has, as of December 2017, increased to 290-some thousand. So that would support that if the loan limits are increasing, and every year we go in there to determine, because we have to increase our loan limits as well. So I do have, I made a copy, and I would, submit it, of those loan limits. So it's really closing into the 300,000. So, with that being said, I think it supports that increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guerrero. Is there anyone else? No? Okay, Vice Speaker, do you have any more questions? Okay. Thank you very much. We will now move on to bill number 147-34, an act to amend subsection 4103F and to add subsection 4103G, both of Article 1, Chapter 4, Title 12, Guam Code Annotated, relative to exempting Guam residents relocating to Guam for employment or to care for relatives due to medical reasons from the Guam Housing Corporation's first-time homeowners requirement, and allowing Guam residents to obtain financing with the Housing Corporation to build or construct affordable typhoon-resistant homes on land trust property. Please state your name and of course, whether you support this bill or not.
Good morning once again, Madam Chair and Vice Speaker Tulahi. I will at this time read our prepared testimony from myself and also our chairman, Mr. Frank Florig, in terms of Guam's Housing Corporation's full support of this initiative. Buenas and Hafa Day, Senator Telena Cruz Nelson and Madam Vice Speaker Tulahi. I would like to extend my thanks and express my appreciation to your office and the Committee on Housing of the 34th Guam Legislature on this public hearing discussion for Bill 147-34. I'm writing to provide you and your distinguished Committee on Housing my support of Bill 147-34. As you may know, Guam Housing Corporation is an autonomous agency providing the people of Guam with various programs to realize the Guamanian dream of home ownership. As a lender of last resort, we are aware of the many challenges and potential homeowners may face in purchasing or building a home of their dreams. Additionally, as the sole local lender for Chamorro Land Trust Commission CLTC properties, many recipients of these lease properties face limited resource or financing options to qualify for a mortgage loan. GHC continues to strive to assist the many indigenous recipients, as you will, but are also aware of the policies and provisions that may hinder a potential creditworthy, income-qualified recipient. The passage of Bill 147-34 will amend several provisions in our lending policy to first-time homeowners programs that restricts a returning resident who was a previous off-island homeowner and have relocated to Guam to own a new home to a former homeowner who provides a gift of property to his children and wishes to build a new home on his CLTC property, and also allowing families who acquired or inherited CLTC property to build or purchase their first home. The reasons are many, and the desires of being a homeowner become an exercise of frustration and futility, resulting in broken dreams. Amending these provisions will provide many of the 8,000 CLTC recipients with an additional chance and the renewed hope, in becoming future homeowners of Guam. In closing, I would like to extend our thanks for you and your housing committee's continued support in providing the people of Guam with affordable housing and fulfilling the dream of homeownership. Undang Kaluna Sizus Masi. Christopher Duenas, President, Guam Housing Corporation. Okay. We have a joint testimony that expands, but I will just leave that to the written, and we remain open for questions at this point.
What is the joint testimony? Who is on there?
The joint testimony, I didn't realize that I actually had been working on my own testimony. The joint testimony is between Mr. Florig, our chairman, and myself. If you would like to read that into the record, that's fine. It's really kind of a duplicate of my testimony with a few enhancements. But other than that, it's fundamentally the same testimony.
Okay. Mr. Florig, would you like to say anything or give another testimony?
No, I think he's echoed the same position I take on the bill. We're for it. I think it's a long time coming. I've been chairman for 6 years, 7 years actually, and we've always had people that have transferred from the mainland back to Guam for reasons of coming back for employment. They've gone off island, learned their skills, come back and want to apply it locally. But while they were living back there, they owned their own home. And because of our first-time homeowner requirements, even if they sold their home stateside, and most of them have, they still don't meet that 5-year limit. So certainly I'm in support of making some adjustments to that, and that is if they move back for that particular purpose of relocating here because of taking care of their elderly parents and or employment, reducing that 5-year for them and making them the exception. I'm all for that. I'm also all for taking that away when it comes to Chamorro Land Trust recipients. And simply put, we're the only loan institution that would give conventional loans right now to Chamorro Land Trust recipients.
I think that basically sums it up. I want to be clear that, and Mary has worked very hard with Chamorro Land Trust, officials and those that are officiating the program. This in no way, takes away from any potential pool of candidates. All qualifications must be met for financing requirements, regardless of who walks through the door. What this basically does is takes away a barrier for a growing community who has received Chamorro Land Trust properties because of the delay in distribution, because of the delay in infrastructure. Many Chamorro Land Trust recipients have to go out and they do other financings and maybe purchase a home, but they have this property and they have a lot of children and they have the ability to pass it on, but they can't finance, and maybe their kids are not at that level yet. And so they're trying to realize the whole intention and the dream of trying to help our people and those in most need realize a proper standard of living. As many of you know, and Chris Felix was here earlier, and we were joking with each other because, as you know, we jab once in a while with the Association of Realtors because, we're trying to get a dedicated funding source for our programs. But, he's like, I'll stay away from yours, you stay away from mine. We were just kidding each other. But what it came down to is he really supports this. He talked about how many times, even when SBA comes in before, one of the early days of SBA is we'll loan to the amount of what the structure was. Well, the structure was a wooden tin structure. What are you going to do? Put another $30,000 wooden tin structure only so it will blow away again in the next storm? And so the idea here is to allow for financing for all those who are eligible to build on CLTC properties and take away barriers so that we don't have substandard structures that consistently may be built and have been built on CLTC properties. And so we're not limiting the pool, we're not limiting the opportunity. As a matter of fact, we believe this is a very forward-thinking bill, knowing that, given the real estate prices on Guam, given our families and the needs of our families, that this bill really anticipates financing opportunities to build proper structures on CLTC properties going forward. That's really the crux of what this bill does. Of course, the first originator from this program was folks who come in to see us that say, we're not well-to-do, we lived in the States, we had a home there, we sold it, mom and dad aren't doing well, we came back home. We just miss the financing at, insert financial institution, conventional Guam here, Bank of Guam, Bank Pacific, we can go on and on, right? We missed it by 2 points, but we could get financing from Guam Housing to buy or build. Mom gave us property while we're here taking care of them, but we don't meet the requirement because the 5-year prohibition, given the fact that we owned a house in Spokane or Seattle or Texas. And so, of course, that's the group of folks who have come to us before and said, we would like that opportunity, just like any other Chamorro, Guamanian, those who are eligible. So we think it's wrong to deny that opportunity, and then once again, like I said, for the delays that exist with our Chamorro Land Trust leases and licenses, the fact of the matter is that, a lot of folks have to move on, but they're still eligible for that property, and what are they going to do? We are the only one besides veterans that will do conventional type financing. So unless a family has $100,000 or $200,000 in cash to go build a home, they're going to build what they can build. And a lot of times that might mean a container, that might mean wooden tin, and until they can build up enough cash reserves to build something substantial. I guess in closing on this, we just now been approached by a qualified builder for Guam Housing. This is going to be exciting, guys, really. They have on the table and they're awaiting their final letter of insurance from 2 insurance companies for a steel building construction model out of Korea. It's very well anodized steel that could withstand our our long-term issues of weather and the like, and also the ratings for wind up to 180 mile per hour and all the other insurance requirements that these two insurance companies will insure this structure. At this time, this builder says he can build a one-bedroom with a kitchen, completely outfitted, of course, one-bedroom home for $50,000. And he has the model that expands out to 2 bedrooms at $75,000, 3 bedrooms at $100,000, and 4 bedrooms at $200,000. I mean, excuse me, up to $125,000. Or I'm being informed now it's even below that. And so imagine that. I mean, that's the type of structure that a family that's struggling, that doesn't have a lot, that might start by building from, the very, very smallest and expanding as they go. But $50,000, guys, that's a car nowadays. That's a pickup truck. And so imagine that type of amortization over 15, 20 years. I mean, we could put somebody in a proper structure in a Chamorro Land Trust property for probably $400 a month. That's real. So that's why we believe that this is a very forward-thinking bill, and we thank you, Madam Chair, and your colleagues. It's a very forward-thinking bill, and it's in preparation for opportunities that are going to grow on our island, for those who are most needy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to acknowledge Secretary Regine Lee for accompanying us today for this public hearing. Thank you for being here. And thank you for saying that, because some of the concern is not the fact that they're not a first-time homeowner or home buyer from the States. The concern is that, the meat of the bill really discusses Chamorro Land Trust property. And so one of the concerns by Mr. Borja, who is the director of Department of Land Management, said that we should include it to say Chamorro Land Trust property and not just land trust property. And so some of the concerns is perhaps the monopoly might swing the other way, and the best interest might not help the people of Guam that want to build single dwelling homes, but help developers. And so it will no longer be affordable housing, the cost would go up. And so that was some of the concerns. And so if you perhaps speak on that concern, and to perhaps reassure us that this is definitely not intended for a monopolizing development or developer, but specifically for single dwelling families that are looking to build on this property that they've been given by the government or perhaps inherited by their next of kin.
Madam Chair, I really appreciate that concern. And as a matter of fact, as a team, when we sat down and we talked about maybe one or two of your colleagues that have approached us on that issue, and we're very sensitive to that, and we understand, that concern. The statutory construction of this bill simply opens it up to financing for individuals. There's nothing in this that says a subdivision must be built, you must have power and water stub outs, you must have this. It's not written like a bill could be written to favor developers. If you're going to favor developers here, you would say financing for Guam housing will only be on a 100 by 100 lot with sewer available, with stub outs for telephone, power, water, to say this, covenants must be in place that you can only plant 4 coconut trees. I know I'm being a little funny, but the fact of the matter is that type of statutory construction would lend itself to, say that this is favoring developers and this is getting away from the true intent of the trust. No, this is just saying that the barrier right now to even the most basic type of construction desired by a family trying to build their little piece of their dream that they could be in to survive a typhoon, an earthquake, and sleep at night, they have financing capability for that. And that's really all it is. And it also is, of course, the person who just got that lease, fresh in their hand, they've got their finance ducks in a row and run to us and go, hey, Guam Housing, we want to apply, we put it in, our team does the application, good to go, this looks good, do we have the money? Yeah, close it. That guy's fine. what we're dealing with here now is generations. The Chamorro Land Trust has been in existence now for, what, Vice Speaker, 30 years? 30, 34 years? And we still have, we can count how many structures are constructed that are like your and I house, you know, your house and my house. We know already if we go in there. One of the biggest things I had to deal with when I came into land management was people screaming at us that you go to their land trust property and they just paid $2,000 for a survey, and they're going through and their road has to take a 90-degree turn and then, you know, a 75-degree turn the other way to go around, you know, monuments and different things or whatever was on the plan. We had to go through and scrub that and actually start over in terms of in our survey division to clean all that stuff up. We have houses that are built on some land trust properties that we had to grandfather or move the lines because the person built a nice structure, a $200,000 beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, and their roof is on the property line. And so, you know, they've got a huge investment here. They've got something that, you know, could be marketed through handing down, you know, this very nice structure to their next child, and there could be a certain amount of equity in there. They put out their hard-earned money, but their roof line is encroaching another lot. So these are the things that I'm saying that, you know, the issue of having to sort through and get to helping the people that we all want to help and wanted to help when we first put this trust together is really, you know, taking time. And so there is a whole new generation now of young people, you know, Frank and others. We meet these, we're all going to be, I'm going to be a grandparent soon, I think. But, you know, we're meeting people now at Denny's and King's and everywhere else that are coming up to us saying, my kids, you know, they're trying to build, and I want to give them my CLTC property, but I need to finance it because they're just not there yet. You know, they have 2 kids of their own and everything else, and where do I get the cash to go build them at least Masaya 1-bedroom? I can't qualify because I already have another mortgage, but I want to build that house for my kids and then pass it down to them. That's what this bill does.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll open it up for my colleagues if they have any questions. Vice Speaker?
Thank you. I noticed Clyde, I was reading the report from the roundtable, and he was here the last time, but he's not here today. But could you just tell us again and be very clear why you are not able to, why do you need the language in this new subsection G? Why are you not able to do this for those who are on Chamorro Land Trust properties right now?
I think I'll defer to our subject matter experts because they seem to answer this question a little better than I do.
Thank you.
Do I have to state my name? Mary Guerrero, Loan Administrator. We have approved over about 34 loans, equating to about 4 mil to recipients of Chamorro Land Trust property. That is ongoing. The concern was for those that already own a home, a standard modest. So it's not just for
all right, let's look at the bill then, if you don't mind. If
no problem.
Subsection G is, it says it's going to add a new section to encourage and promote the building or construction of affordable permanent homes on land trust property by residents of Guam who have acquired or inherited land trust property by utilizing a special fund to provide financial grants. So are you saying that we really don't need a new subsection G? You are already authorized to do that, correct? And you've been doing it very successfully. In fact, I want to commend you for that.
Yeah, if I can just join Mary on this one too. We didn't want to do this here. We were going to work with the author to provide some amendments. Our original testimony had amendments proposed.
Yes.
But we were going to work with the committee after the hearing of this bill on rewriting that section. We have proposed a rewrite.
Yeah,
of
there
that
were other suggestions at the last roundtable that were made, and they're not in this new, and the bill has not been revised. So perhaps that's just
there's some
one of the
committee work to be done.
Revise the bill. All right. Well, I was going to say, G, I have no issue with because that seems to me very consistent with what you're supposed to be doing already, and you have been successfully doing it. And I want to thank you. That's you've been really doing a great job with that. And it is one of the few sources for loans for people on land trust properties. Yeah, so my issue again, I guess, and I had already asked a lot of these during the last roundtable as to subsection F. My fear is, and I know you said you were very hopeful that that companion measure was going to pass, that was going to put a lot more money into this trust fund, but I'm worried that, you know, let's take the reality of today. That additional funding source is not available. And so with the funds that we have now, if we pass subsection F, which had originally prioritized first-time homeowners, now is going to make a big exception to those who had already owned homes, sold it, took the proceeds, and are coming back to Guam now, and now we want to qualify them as first-time. They might have even qualified for first-time home ownership back then. So I just want to know, what is the financial impact that you are expecting from this? How many applicants like that do you get, and what are the, how much funds do we have? And if we opened it up this way right now, what's the impact? Because that's really the question, because we have, I am sure, still a huge demand for first-time people who want to be first-time owners on Guam, and I'm just very concerned about that we need to take care of them, and if we have a very limited funding source, it's a matter of setting priorities. So I guess that's what I want to know, right? And you keep talking about land trusts in relation to this, but it's really not, right? Because subsection F relates to any property anywhere, and it's to make this exemption where you had. I guess let me rephrase my question. F says that you're going to promote the construction of permanent homes by residents who have not previously been homeowners. This is in addition to your other programs, right? And is there any program that these people who are moving back who had originally been homeowners that they can also benefit from your programs if they're not first-time homeowners?
When we brought this issue on the table, we weren't looking at all of Guam Housing's loan programs. We do have programs that are subsidized. We have the grant, we have the KAHAT, which is an interest-free loan, which requires 5-year residency. At one point, 6% program was considered subsidized because it was a low interest in comparison to the prevailing rate. That no longer exists, and working with Senator Ben Pangilinan, we changed that so that we can kind of follow suit with dropping some of our rates. So we were looking at our direct program, where this is funds that come back through the repayment of loans, and it's only the principal that becomes available for those types. And we were only looking at that program because everything else is subsidized. We need to protect that it is a subsidized program and not just everybody. There's a reason why we stipulated a 5-year residency, the first-time homeowner,
right,
even to 5 years, not just 3.
Mm-hmm.
So with those and the limited funding as well, I recommended that we keep that for those that are in fact first-time homeowners. And it's just our direct, which won't be a lot because there's not a lot of funds coming back for principal payment. You know, that would make it be available for non-first-time homeowners. So I'm suggesting that should it be open for a non-first-time, for those 2 categories, that we keep it to just our regular direct program, which, you know, there's no subsidy. I think anything that's subsidized, I think that should really be specific to first-time homeowners. And on the issue about affordability and steering to maybe higher cost, Chamorro Land Trust Commission can control that. Every loan we make, we require a loan guarantee. And the reason for that is because we won't be able to exercise foreclosure in the event there's a default. So, to protect, if Chamorro Land Trust goes, no, you can't get a $300,000 loan, you were going to have to just get this amount. So they really can control the costs based on the loan guarantee, because without that loan guarantee, then you're giving the lender a reason to doubt that in the event there's a default, how can we recover our money? So really, for them to do their due diligence and say, you want to get a $300,000 loan, I'm sorry, but we can only guarantee you this amount. This amount, you should be able to build a home, a modest type home that would meet your family needs on Chamorro Land Trust property. Because that would be depleting their loan guarantee funds fast if it's always going to be a high amount. So in terms of not trying to prevent higher costs and then eliminating affordability, really I think Chamorro Land Trust can control that based on the loan guarantee that we require them to issue in order for us to move forward with the loan.
Have they been doing that?
Yes.
Yes.
What kind of amounts?
What kind of amounts?
Yes.
Anywhere from, we've had loans under Chamorro Land Trust from $25,000 to $270,000, but
right.
only one was $270,000. Everything else
That's
is
the
like
Okay.
Yeah.
$150,000, and they're giving us the loan guarantee.
So when
Yeah,
you,
go ahead.
sorry, when you say, Mary, that they need to do their if they did their due diligence, we could do more? What did they need to do, faster or be more critical of the amounts?
Well, they know how much they have in their loan guarantee. They know how many people they've issued out leases to accommodate all of those people
I see.
with considering what may be the potential default rate.
Yes.
Then you do the math.
Oh, that's
okay, with what I have, then I can only guarantee 50 recipients.
Right.
So you're going to be basing it on an average loan amount to accommodate the 50. So that's why I'm saying if someone comes in with 300, you may be robbing one that's trying to come in for 100,
Right.
depending on the order they are being entertained.
Okay.
So
I understand. Okay.
So they really can control that.
And if I can also,
Yes.
Madam Vice Speaker and panel, you know, even though we're Guam Housing, we have to assure the quality of the loan. And so the fact of the matter, when you talk about, you know, applicants, we may have a $20 million pipeline right now with $4 million available. But even though there's a $20 million pipeline, there may be 60% of that doesn't qualify. They may come in and have a good income. They may have, you know, a dual income and the like, but their credit's at 510. And so we're not going to write that loan. So the fact of the matter is this is more non-discriminatory and writing. We have to have a balanced portfolio as well. So when we talk about are we setting ourselves up for failure here or will we dilute our pool, we write loans as close to conventional as possible to balance our risk. And that's why we're in reasonably good shape right now in terms of our financing and everything else. And our folks are really strict. We're heartbroken sometimes when we have to. I have to check that box disapproved, and I don't like doing it. But the fact of the matter is hopefully in a year, 2 years, we're going to see that same family back, and they've repaired their credit worthiness and the like, and it's there. This is more about being non-discriminatory towards those who also would move back. And yeah, maybe they sold their home, but maybe their proceed was only $20,000 because they hadn't built up a lot of equity. So they came back here and they're resetting. They probably got a new job. One of the spouses has a new job. You know, they want a home too. And so, man, go into Guam Housing, see what we can do in terms of what we got, because we just missed the other bank by 2 points. Let's see what Guam Housing can do. They may be a great loan. You know, they may have good equity. And that's going back to, yes, Madam Vice Speaker, we're not just talking Chamorro Land Trust centric here, but definitely we know that this bill for that program, given the dual track this bill is taking, is something that is forward thinking. But it really is written for all of our to amend our current financing capability.
Right. Can I ask then, what is the potential impact of this? How many people how do you know how many people there are that need this? What is the need?
Not a lot, because I've spoken to Chamorro Land Trust. Anybody that has been given Chamorro Land Trust lease, The priority one are those that are first time. They have no land, they don't have a house. Priority two are those that already possess, they have ownership of a home. And that they haven't given anybody. But for the few, and I'm thinking less than a handful, they've already received their Chamorro Land Trust, and somewhere before they built, they inherited property. So it's not a lot. It's just that the inquiry was made. It's something that only this body can change. But we felt that, you know, it's been brought to our attention. We're trying to address the situation because we're looking at how can we best address housing issues. You know, if they're giving up their house that they own to give to their children that may not be able to even rent, then they can go and get a smaller house. But even if they do that, we need to do our underwriting to ensure that we're not setting them up for failure. And it's not a lot, the impact. And if we feel that if we want to follow suit and say, okay, maybe you're not a priority one for funding, you know, we can then prioritize it. But every loan that we've done, it's processed and approved in the order of when the application package is complete. So, you know, it depends again on how aggressive our applicants are to complete theirs, but every one is reviewed by a loan committee. Every packet is reviewed by a loan committee to ensure that our underwriting has been met.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. And once again, it may be a handful today, but anecdotally, as we've been meeting folks along the line, it's going to grow. It's going to grow because folks are aging out, and you know as well as I do, Chamorro Land Trust is not on a fast track right now to conventionalize and provide infrastructure and the like to the thousands of acres that it has in its inventory. So just as a natural progression of age, folks who have moved on that still are priority two, that's going to happen in the next decade. This population is going to grow. So once again, this is a very forward-thinking bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for being here to provide testimony for these bills. I also had a similar question to the Vice Speaker about the current needs, so thank you for responding to that. And during that response, Mary, you were mentioning the priority order. Could you speak a little bit to that and kind of give us a little bit more insight on I guess, what kind of groups or what kind of individual would have like the top priority as opposed to some of these other people who are eligible?
The only thing we have right now, we do have, like, in terms of a servicing aspect. If one of our loans are in need of a refinancing, then we would give that a priority to refinance. But there's not much for payout there. It's just redoing the loan, provided they meet all the underwriting. The first priority is for those that are first time and meet our mandate as written. You know, their first time, they show repayment and all that good stuff. The second priority are those that are requesting financial assistance for home improvement. Now, if the home improvement is because it's needed because their family has grown and they went from a 2-bedroom now requiring a 3. If there's no other that is waiting for funding, and you know, then we can go ahead and have them entertain. We can go ahead and entertain them because the need is in fact there. They've displayed that. But if they just want to add another room, but there isn't a need. That's not something that Guam Housing would entertain, and we even look at a higher interest rate for that. So those are the two types of priority, one being a first time, the second, it's always a first time for now, but the second one being that it's for a home improvement.
And there's a loan committee that would determine this need?
Yes, in-house, we...
and who is that made up of? It's...
Okay, we have, myself as the chair, and then I have our quality assurance officer, I have my loan underwriter, and we also have our accounting manager. You've got people that are knowledgeable with different aspects that can bring to the table.
Have you ever had any appeals for, like, if, let's say you have to disapprove somebody, can they come back and ask you to revisit it if?
I think during the process, it has been explained over and over what they would need for Guam Housing to really reconsider their decision. And at that point, because we explained that, you know, we can't give you an exception. I mean, there are times that if it's a board policy, I would defer to the board, but still the committee would provide their recommendation with the president's approval for me to take it to the board. But I can't recall where one would come in and just, you know, unless they bring in new information for us to reconsider, then yes. But believe me, during the process, we're already explaining to them that this may be an issue with one of the committee that, you know, we're not going to go ahead and finance. And if you don't have the funds and you can't afford extra money to do the repairs, we're not going to allow that financing because we don't want to purchase non-standard or, you know, non-conforming. So those are issues. It's not only repayment, but the collateral as well. Are you just trying to meet your needs and moving into a house that is substandard and doesn't meet? That's not our mission. So if you don't have the resources to repair, and you can't get you can't increase your loan qualification, then I'm sorry, at that point you either have to go look for another property or, you know, show us that you do have the resources. So there are different aspects that we may be, and that won't even, we just give them time to bring in new information to address any of the committee's concern.
Yeah, and that's something that I think Senator Duenas was referring to, that, you know, maybe we might deny them today, but in about a year or so, things might change. They might have better employment records and, you know, a history of repayment for other loans that might, you know, help to improve their credit. So, okay.
And we encourage that. We tell them our doors are open, and this is not an absolute shut door action. This is actually, we tell them before they leave that these are something that you may want to work on, so that you can address the concerns that we do have, because we won't set anyone up for failure. It's harder for me to take their home than for me to tell them right off the bat they can't have one right now.
Mary's not bragging about their creativity, though. One of the things that I've been so amazed at this team is one of the most recent we've done with a couple of financing is an individual comes in, they realize they're shooting, you know, for the stars, but they really need to be on the moon, right? So they've gone in, and so what they've recommended is, hey, look for other properties, foreclosure properties or other properties that might be requiring upgrades. And they do a two-phase loan. They'll do a two-phase loan. A lot of times they'll say, we'll approve you as long as you secure a contractor. We'll approve you for the financing, interest only, on the purchase of the home. And then we'll give the notice to proceed to the contractor to do all the upgrades and recommendations. So when the house finalizes, it repackages as a renovated home. The value goes up, their ratio goes down, and the loan can be approved.
That's great.
So that's how creative these guys are in terms of bringing some folks to reality on what they can afford and what they really should be doing. I know our chairman too has even told other folks, you know, I know we all probably want to live centrally, but the fact of the matter is, they're you know, maybe you have to look, you know, in other areas and the like. So very creative team, and so to your question, Senator, they do everything that they can to try to put folks in a position where they won't be set up for failure and see opportunities that they might not be seeing when they first come in for the financing.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you all for all the work that you do for Guam's families and for helping them to be placed in a proper home. That's really exciting for a lot of first-time home buyers. And I also am looking forward to seeing some of the amendments or proposed amendments as it works through the committee process. And I guess I'll reserve my comments at a later time till I see those details. Thank you so much. Just Masi, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Lee. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out today. Just a few, I guess a little back brief of what we're going to do is we're going to take the comments from the roundtable hearing that we had. We'll make some amendments within the committee, and of course the committee is all privy to that. And then also, Mr. President, you said that you're going to have additional concerns addressed specifically for bill number 147. And so we'll take that, what you recommend and perhaps what Guam Housing Corporation's team recommends, and we'll make adjustments from there. And if anything that is added and legal determines whether it's germane or not germane to the bill, and we made some serious changes, then we might just have a public hearing, of course, with the agreement of the committee that stands under the Committee of Housing, Utilities, and Public Safety, Homeland Security. Okay, so we had to have the public hearing first. We couldn't make those changes from the roundtable hearing into this amended bill because our standing rules is stated as such. So it was a need to have the public hearing. We're going to make the amendments from the roundtable hearing and also the concerns that were raised here today. And of course, we will do one more process with all the stakeholders involved and the committee to ensure that the bill is right-sized and really addresses the concerns of the community. Okay, so thank you very much for coming today. I'd like to thank Vice Speaker and Secretary Regine Lee for being here today. It is now 10:14 a.m. The Committee on Housing, Utilities, and Public Safety, Homeland Security is now called to adjourn. Thank you very much.